Oh, heaven sent you to me. I'm just hoping I don't repeat history. Girl, I'm trying to meet your mama on a Sunday. I don't need. Last Christmas. Oh, I didn't do it. So technically, I'm not Wham, so you didn't get. That's blasted there. Never gonna give you. No, you didn't get Rick rolled either. Anyway, thank you for hopping on here. I know it's Monday, which means it's been a billion years since the Errol Spence Danny Garcia fight. Right? It's been a billion years at least, man, because it's like 36 hours since the fight. And I was on, saw a lot of this stuff, and I actually went on Canine Bundridge's YouTube channel, and he did a nice thing with the fight and talking and everything, and really replies to the people that make good comments on his feed and everything. So I would recommend, going over to his channel, checking it out and stuff, and say, hey, Ragu told me to come over here. And not that he knows me at all, but, let's try and work something. Maybe I can get an interview with him down the road and stuff, and see how he was, from his times with Contender. Anyway, that's not why you came here. You came for the Errol Spence, Danny Garcia Afterfight Afterthought, right? And in these videos, I go over the things leading up to the fight, both fighter sides in that thing, and then I usually start with the Afterthought, which, in this case is going to be Danny Garcia. So coming into this, he had a lot of questions. The biggest ones being, he had 2 losses on his record, and both were against upper-tier welterweights. With his loss to Keith Thurman and also his loss to Sean Porter, a lot of questions were, is he going to be able to step up and pull this off, right? And going into the fight, he has this great training camp and everything. His father's writing a lot of checks for him, hoping that his son is going to cash them. And he knows that he's going to have to come in there and fight, in a sense, the fight of his life, or at least prepare for that, against Errol Spence. As, he's coming in and he's fighting a guy who's coming off what could be described as a horrific car injury. And looking at this, this is almost a must-win. Well, it is a must-win for him because, everything is aligning. The stars are lining up for him for this. He's getting to fight arguably the best in the welterweight division. Others will throw in Terrence Crawford, and they can, absolutely, because Bud Crawford is a bad individual. So, but they're saying he's taking on Errol Spence, who is recognized as the guy. And he's catching him, as this is Errol Spence's tune-up fight, his comeback fight. So all the stars are aligning for Danny Garcia to take this, to bring it home, right? And if he doesn't, he's 0-3 against the top in the division. And when you go 0 for 3, and some might argue 1 or 2 might not have been that close, you could be in trouble. Going over to Spence, he's got everything to lose. No one would take away from him, look down on him if he were to take a tune-up fight, because Lord knows Danny Garcia has done those in the past. He's fought bums. Check out the video I did on the prediction for the fight. He's got a couple bums on his record. So if Spence would have went out and got a not a bye week or any of that, it's fighting. There's always risks that you have to take. But if Spence would have went out and took an easier opponent, people wouldn't be freaking out. They wouldn't, they wouldn't have blamed him. Nobody would have looked down on it. They would have understood. And it would have said, oh, you were in a horrific crash? You have the longest layoff you've ever had in your career? You had to get not facial, but reconstructive dental surgery and stuff. You've got new teeth. You know, learning how to talk with your new teeth. Just saying it, it's rough. Anyway, nobody would have taken anything away from him. So he's literally putting everything on this fight. He's really going out on a limb and testing himself about as much as you possibly can for a tune-up fight as there could be. You couldn't pick a tougher opponent unless he was literally going to fight Bud Crawford or Manny Pacquiao or Sean Porter again, right? Maybe you'll get Thurman in there down the line, but Thurman's got to do some stuff first. Okay? So they have the fight, and it's going out, and maybe you're kind of worried about how Spence looked in warm-ups. He looked a little slow and stuff, but he comes out, man, and he's firing those jabs. And I had him winning, roughly the first 3 rounds. The 4th one was close. If you wanted to give that to Garcia because he was landing the overhand rights and stuff like that, I could see that. The 5th round went solidly Garcia's way. That was like the one round where you could go, Garcia took it. Looks like he's, I don't want to say closing the gap, but he's definitely landing a few more of the more significant or power shots in this round, But you can't dismiss that jab of Spence's, which we had talked about in the prediction video. Spence is doing very well with that jab. He's aggressive. He's kind of walking Danny down at times, In the 6th round, you could start to see some eye damage and eye swelling on Danny Garcia. I gave that round to Spence as well. 7th round, gave that to Spence as well. I mean, the jabs, the 1, 2, 3, 4 jabs, it's like that jab is controlling the fight. It's every bit that you would want, and especially if you're a jab man like I am, right? A lot of people, maybe they're right-hand mans. I'm a jab man. I love a good jab, and I believe if you've got a good or a great jab, you can really control a fight, and we're seeing this with Spence. The 8th and 9th seemed like Garcia was landing a lot more. He was taking a little bit more from Spence in there, and I gave those 8th and 9th round to Danny Garcia. The 10th and 11th I gave to Spence, as Spence kind of took it away. He started imposing his will a little bit on Danny. Danny not firing enough. He's trying to pick up the pace, but he's a counterpuncher, and it just isn't in his cards. He's threw a lot more punches than he normally does leading up to it. Hold on, let me get to the 12th round. And in the 12th round, I gave to Garcia. So I had Garcia roughly winning 3 of the last 5 rounds. So, I had Garcia winning 4 rounds over the entire fight there. And you could argue maybe the 4th round you could lean toward Garcia as well. So if you scored that 115, 113, I wouldn't go, wow, you were blind. But if you scored it a draw or thought Garcia won anything at all, I would say you need to get your vision checked twice. 1 for each eye. I had it at 116, 112. Could have went 117, 111. I mean, that's what the judges that actually judged the fight. 2 had it 116, 112. And I had it 117, 111. So looking at that, you saw everything that you wanted to see with Errol Spence coming back. Errol Spence was Errol Spence. And that was the worry coming into this fight. We didn't know if that's what we were going to see. And we saw it. And to think he's going to get better, if that makes any sense, Coming off, he's just training to get past the injury and everything. Now he knows he's good, right? So he can go out there and push it even farther. And Danny was as game as there's ever been game. And if you saw the post-conference, Danny's face was busted up, man. He didn't look, Spence looked okay. He looked normal after the fight. Granted, he wore his hat really low and he had his hoodie over his face. So you couldn't really, you saw like this much of him, right? But, Garcia, he was busted up, but he was humble with it. And he admitted the better man won the fight. His dad said he wished he would have saw Danny fight like he fought in that 12th round. The thing is that is not his son. Danny Garcia is not an aggressive fighter. He is a counterpuncher, and that's what got Danny Garcia to where he is. He's going to really have to put a lot of time into changing his style if that's what he wants to do. I don't know if that's in his cards because his muscle reflexes, everything he's been built on has been built on being a counterpuncher, and a great jab messes that up big time. So, I mean, I could see him rematching Thurman again. I could see Danny going up and maybe trying to get a rematch against Sean Porter. Maybe. When you look at Errol Spence, and let's with Errol Spence, the sky's the limit. He can fight who he wants to fight. If he wants the Bud Crawford fight, get the Bud Crawford fight. If he wants the Pacquiao fight, get the Pacquiao fight. Whichever one what he wants to do, he has now basically stated and can dictate to do. Right? He's got to wait for Bud Crawford to get out of that contract that he's with. I think he's with Top Rank. I don't want to confuse the people and as to where they are. You know, because people are wherever they are. Anyway, the promotion that Bud Crawford is currently with, he's getting out of that. So when that happens, we might be able to see that fight. And that's what I see for Errol Spence. And he should get that. Or he should get the big money Pacquiao fight. That would be good too. You know. And he would be the much bigger man in that fight against Pacquiao. Because, I mean, Errol Spence blows up to almost like 190 pounds on his off time. So he's a much bigger guy than what Pacquiao is. Pacquiao's like 85% Pacquiao, so that's better than 95%. Why am I using math figures in boxing? Doesn't matter. Anyway, speaking of math, we looked at the punch totals. And after barely getting over 470 punches for so many fights there, Danny Garcia, anytime he fought a top fighter, Danny Garcia actually threw 700 punches. Errol Spence threw 707, so he threw more punches, and they both landed the same amount of power shots. So you're saying, well, why didn't Garcia win more rounds? Well, Errol Spence landed 70 more jabs. So Errol Spence threw 7 more punches, but landed 70 more. So when you look at that average, the way it averaged out, you had 26% was Errol Spence landed at a 26% rate, which isn't great, but when you're fighting a counterpuncher, you want to use that jab a lot and really throw it out there and force him off so you can work others. And some of the jabs might just be throwaway punches, but you still throw them and they still get counted. And then you look over at Danny Garcia, who we talked about is incredibly accurate. He's a 45% power puncher. Only landed 17% of his shots. He only threw 14 jabs. Or landed 14 jabs. You know, where Spence landed 84. So, you know, when you look at that, and they both landed 103 power shots. So you do the math on that stuff. But you looked at it, and 187 punches landed for Spence, 117 landed for Garcia. There's your decision. You know, if people want to go to this CompuBox and all that and try and bring stuff up, you know, the jab was a massive difference in this fight. And again, hats off to Errol Spence, man. He just blew everybody's doors off and really performed better than what I thought he was going to perform. I thought he would take the decision, but I thought there would definitely you would see certain things that weren't there anymore. They're there. He just knocked a little bit of the ring rust off of him, and he'll be better his next fight afterward, and I'm looking forward to that. So please comment, rate, subscribe. Let me know what you thought about the fight, what you want to see. And then I think I'm going to do the Anthony Joshua Pula video right after this one. After I get a drink of water, because my throat's dry. Anyway, have an absolutely fantastic day. Be safe. Be healthy. Eduardo, you got anything? No. All right. Be safe. Stay healthy. I'm out.